The two leaders have an official lunch scheduled. They will also be meeting, and then we are expecting to hear from Prime Minister Mark Carney speaking at the Canadian Embassy at 3 Eastern, 12 noon Pacific time. I want to welcome back Fen Hampson, who is Chancellor's Professor and Professor of International Affairs at Carleton University's Norman Paterson School of International Affairs. Fen, we were talking before that impromptu scrum about what we were expecting to hear, especially from the U.S. president. What stood out for you over the course of the last half hour?
First of all, Andrew, I would say this was a master class in how to handle Donald Trump. Mark Carney began by openly acknowledging that he understands the concerns that the United States has had with Canada on, border issues, fentanyl, trade, and security. He complimented the president for particularly the work he's done to, as he put it, gently reinvigorate NATO. But he did so without sort of fawning on the president. He gently pushed back, I thought, on Trump's comments about the 51st state, using humor, I thought, quite effectively, saying, I talked to the owners during the election. Canada's not for sale. What really popped out at me and what really struck me was that Prime Minister Carney clearly has Trump's respect. And part of that comes from the fact that Mark Carney brought the Liberals back from the proverbial political grave. And I think that resonates with Donald Trump in terms of, his own political revival after his first presidency. I think the other thing that's very important is that Donald Trump said more than once that the Canada-US-Mexico free trade agreement is still alive. The Americans are not going to walk back from it. There are going to be negotiations to adjust. He did say possibly terminate it, but again, the second time he was asked about it, he said we're going to work on some subtle changes. So I think this was not just a good meeting, it was a very positive meeting going forward. It does lay the basis, for what are going to be difficult negotiations with the Americans. But I was really struck by the fact that the tone was actually warm. It was respectful. The president, came very close to saying, Canada has a special relationship with the United States. He still seems to think that this is, from an American standpoint, we're taking advantage of them. And so I think the Prime Minister has his work cut out from him to say, this is one of the most balanced trade relationships that the United States has with any of its trading partners.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about the trade relationship. You mentioned USMCA, but Donald Trump was asked specifically, is there anything that can change your mind on tariffs? And his answer was, no, that's just the way it is. And we know that this short-term tariff issue is a big priority for the Canadian Prime Minister. So where does Canada go from here if that's the answer coming from the very top of the Trump administration, from the president himself?
Well, I think certainly when you talk to people around this town, their view is we can't have CUSMA negotiations unless the tariffs are lifted. It certainly struck me that Donald Trump is not in any mood right now to raise those tariffs. But there, I would say, given what's happening in the U.S. economy right now, and it's not just tariffs against Canada, it's tariffs against China and other trading partners. The U.S. economy is entering a recession, and I think that's where the pressure is going to come to lift those tariffs. It's not going to come from us; it's going to come from Americans who are going to be finding in pretty short order that the shelves in Walmart and Target and other major retail outlets are bare and things are a lot more expensive.
Okay, let me close with you on this because we just heard, like I hour. We heard Donald Trump and Mark Carney speaking. We are going to hear more from the Prime Minister on the outcome of today's meetings this afternoon in a couple of hours. But before we hear from Mark Carney, how should Canadians ultimately measure the outcome of today's meeting and whether it's a success? Is it just a question of hearing a friendlier tone from Donald Trump, and perhaps that sets the table for a better relationship to come?
I think that what really struck me, the tone from Donald Trump was, we're ready to have a serious negotiation, he wants to work with the Prime Minister. He wasn't dismissive. I was quite struck by his comments at the end, where he was very critical about Justin Trudeau. He made it clear he didn't like Mark Carney's predecessor, and he didn't like Chrystia Freeland, who negotiated the CUSMA trade agreement with the Americans, at least in her capacity as Minister of International Trade at the time. I think it's more than just a good meeting. I think it was very positive and constructive, and all the things that we worried about. Yes, the 51st state issue came up. No big surprise there, but I thought Carney deflected it and drew some clear lines in the sand, if I can use that term, or drew some red lines. We're not going to go there. So.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there for now. Fen Hampson, always appreciate your insight on foreign policy issues. Thanks so much for joining me here today.
My pleasure, Andrew.